Good evening and welcome to the December 8th, 2021 work session of the Penfield Town Board. I'll officially call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask for those that are in the auditorium, if you please rise for the pledge tonight.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Draw. Here. Cole. Here. LaFountain.
Present.
Moore.
Here.
Ockenden.
Here.
All right. The board will get started. We have the November 10th minutes, November 10th, 2021. Before us, I would ask for a motion of approval of those minutes.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilperson Moore, second by Councilperson Draw. And I'll ask, are there any questions, changes, or updates to those minutes as they were prepared?
No, sir.
All right, seeing none, I would ask for a roll call vote of approval of those minutes, please.
Draw.
Here.
Cole.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Aye. LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
All right, monthly reports are due by the end of the week. We have most of them in. There are a couple that might be missing. I won't mention any names, but I would expect that they would be in by close of business on Friday. Thank you to those department heads that have got them in and will be getting them in. There are no public hearings this evening. We do have a couple of guests. Our first guest, this is for a Streamline Approval to allow a law office at 1828 Penfield Road. And I'll ask Mr. Costello if he would tee this up further for the board.
Thank you, Mr. LaFountain. We have Jennifer Vigneri with us this evening. She's interested in purchasing 1828 Penfield Road, the site of the former Ashnalt Law Office. She would like to continue to utilize that property as a law office, and I will allow her to speak to you about the ins and outs of what she's proposing for the site.
Great. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you.
Jennifer, please give your name and address for the record.
For the record, yes. My name is Jennifer Vigneri, and it's regarding 1828 Penfield Road, which I'm hoping to purchase. I'm in the process of purchasing right now. So I'm a solo practitioner. I have a number of part-time staff, but primarily in terms of like if you're concerned with like traffic and like clients coming in and out. For the most part, I usually do my initial consultations remotely. I've continued with that practice. It seems to kind of be the way of the future. I do have a lot of will signings, but when I have them, people are in and out in 15 minutes. So, you know, in terms of like cars and parking and stuff like that, anyone who would park usually comes and goes really quickly.
Okay. And I think the paperwork that you submitted to Mr. Costello indicates that you have 5 part-time employees.
5 or 6, but they never, no more than 2 would ever be there at the same time. And again, that's for will signing. So in terms of like a normal day, it usually would be sometimes just myself and myself and one person, at least at this time.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And signage that you would have planned for the facility?
So I haven't met with the sign company yet, but I see there's like if you guys can see the same picture that I'm looking at of the building, it looks like there's a space there. So I probably would like to utilize that exact same space.
Okay.
And have kind of a simple sign that would either just say law office there, or it would say Vigneri Law PC, one of the two.
Okay. All right. And I would encourage you, before you commit to a sign, to work with staff, Mr. Costello or Ms. Ivers, on that, just to make sure that you don't end up overbuilding the sign and making sure it's part of the compliance of the code and things like that.
Definitely. Okay.
All right. Board questions for Jennifer.
Just a real quick question, Mr. Supervisor, and Mr. Costello, if you mentioned this, I apologize. Were we looking at a streamline?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just had a question, Mr. Supervisor. So, and maybe this is for Mr. Costello, Jim. There's no parking right affiliated with that building at all?
No, it's
correct?
all on street,
So
and there are 13 spaces on street, as you remember. We've talked about several times.
Yep.
Also, Jennifer's aware of the parking lot to the north, which
Perfect.
is a public parking lot. not immediately to this building, but beyond that building by the fire hall.
Right, correct. That's, I just want to make sure.
Up
We knew we were all on
behind,
board and you knew where the
Yeah, so
parking
I
was.
would definitely myself always park in public parking. I have not done so, but I probably will ask the owner of the sewing building if I can rent some spaces from him or whoever owns it. But otherwise, I'll use the public parking in terms of where I would park.
You mean the art building, the art?
No, there's
No,
a
she's talking
sewing.
about Terry Williams' building.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry. yeah,
corner,
right,
yeah.
right.
There's a lot of spaces in there, and they're never full, so I don't know if that's a possibility. But I would just park in the public parking, and I would have any employee park there, too.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. There was something in there in between being a law office. Do you have a lot of renovation to do in there, or is it pretty much Wally Ashnault's office?
It was a doctor's office.
It's, yeah, doctor's office, so not in terms of walls, but certainly in terms of just like carpet and paint or flooring.
Right.
That would be what I would do right away.
And there's no more room for anything else to go in there, right? It would just be you,
Yeah, I mean,
future.
there potentially could be another attorney or something, but that's not my plan. I need all the space, so.
In your hours, how late would you stay open? Need lighting?
In a normal situation, it would just be normal office hours. I do sometimes do later will signings on one evening a week or something, but I'd be more likely to do Saturday or Sunday.
Okay. Would you think of any other kind of lighting in the window or anything like that, like open or, those kind of things?
Oh, to attract customers? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying in general, some businesses do that. I just wondered, maybe not in the Four
Like a
Corners as
walk-up window?
often.
Like a walk-up window? Get a cup of coffee and some consultation?
In a will.
Yeah.
Do you mean to try to get, I'm just not sure of what your question is.
Well, if all you want is the sign saying who you are, where it was, that's fine. I just wondered if you were going to do anything in the window as well.
Oh.
Like the Realtor had a big sign in there. There's things.
Oh, yeah, it's
So
different than
you would
I'm
be
not
entitled to
encouraging
put a sign on the inside of the window.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't need a permit to do that because it's on the inside of the building.
You're saying even if it's lit, it's permitted?
It would be permitted. We don't want blinking signs or anything of
Yeah.
that nature, but if you wanted to put a sign up saying Vigneri
Okay, okay.
law or something like that in the window, you could do that.
I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding. Yeah, so, I mean, my plan was just to do like a window decal with more
Yep.
details
All right.
about my business, but I'm not really going for a lot of walk-ins. That's not really my desire.
You're more of an appointment only.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
The
board,
only other thing I'd bring to your attention is I noticed that there is a small garden area out in front by the window. We are trying to encourage our property owners down there to try and maintain and take care of some of the landscaping. It's been a challenge to get some to do it, but some have. And we would like, probably as a condition of approval, that you maintain that area for landscaping purposes.
That tiny little box?
Yeah,
Definitely. I would not want it to look like that.
We don't either.
And I'm not very good with plants, but I have several family members who are, so. Yeah, I wouldn't want it to look like that. Can I ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so in terms of the outside, though, it would be fine for me to paint or do anything like that, or do I need permission for everything like that?
Paint the door?
Well, certainly the door, but like, say I wanted to paint the brick white down the road, like, do I need permission for that?
That building may be within the Historic Preservation District, but the other one certainly is, but this one may or may not be. I'll have to check for you. If it's not, yes, you could do that. Certainly, we're going to be interested in the colors that you pick because we
Yeah.
don't want something garish or not to
No.
insinuate that you would do that, but others have. So we've got to make sure that whatever the colors may be, we would want to check it. If it is in the district, the Historic Preservation Board would do that for you. They'd review that with you, and it's kind of a quick process, too.
Okay.
So. You
Yeah.
just have to let the town know that you want to do something, and we'll work with you to get to where you want to be.
Okay, yep.
All right. Board, other questions for the
When would you
applicant?
like to open?
So I'm hoping to close as soon as possible. Realistically, that's the end of January probably, but I would love approval. So the bank wants some sort of approval in writing of some kind as a condition of closing. So yeah, I would like approval for like sometime in January.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions, Board? All right, Mr. Costello, is there anything that you would like to see added to the record that has not been added, either through the submissions by the applicant or the discussion this evening?
I think the only thing outstanding would be the fact that you have to work with your sign company because this board will have to review the sign proposal, which we'll get to them electronically and then they'll memorialize that in another work session somewhere down the road here for you, and then you can go in and get your building, or your sign permit for the property.
Sure, but I'm not required to have the sign to
No,
be
not at all,
open.
but,
Right, okay.
but you are required to provide them with a sign design if you're going to put one up.
Of course, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And I do plan to move forward. I just have so many things going on
Yep,
right now.
Yep. And again, if you put the decal on the inside of your window, you don't need a permit for
Okay.
that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Costello.
Yep.
Jennifer, any further questions for us?
I don't think so. Thank you for seeing me, hearing this matter so
Yep.
quickly. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. So let's, talk about next steps. Mr. Costello will be looking to draft a letter that'll go to you. That'll memorialize this discussion this evening. It'll talk about the signage. It'll talk about the fact that you'll need an inspection by our building department and fire marshal for the building, just to make sure everything is safe and what have you. And then any other notations that we discussed will be part of that letter. So you have that for your records, for your files, and then ultimately for your closing.
Okay, and how quickly could I schedule those other inspections?
Oh, as soon as possible.
Oh, great, okay.
And it's just to ensure that the building is compliant with state code, that-
Okay.
and that you're not being, put in a situation that is unsafe.
Okay. And I did have an inspection of my own done, so,
Very good.
okay.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
All right, thank you for your time, and welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, great. Have a good evening.
You too.
Be well, be safe. All right, we'll move on our agenda. We have another Streamline request. This is to allow massage therapy office at 2130 5 Mile Line Road. And again, Mr. Costello, if you would tee this up further for the board.
Thank you. Linda, why don't you come on up, make yourself comfortable. We have with us this evening Linda Demme, who is a massage therapist. She would like to take over a portion of the building at 2130 5 Mile Line Road, which is adjacent to Joe Gatz. As you know, this site has been the site of a few massage therapy parlors and other wellness businesses. She would like to take over a portion of it, and I'll let you explain to the board exactly what you'd like to do.
Okay, so I was going to lease the one unit on the second floor. It has 4 rooms. There would be 4 therapists there at one time, maximum, with 4 clients. That's about it. Pretty
I'm
straightforward.
sorry, could you please give your name and address for the record as well?
It's Linda Demme, Demme, and it's 2130 5 Mile Line Road. I was going to put a sign that was compliant with what is already there. He has a sign out front, and it just has people's,
It's kind of a directory sign.
yeah. There's a space for me
Right, got it.
underneath. I mean, it was going to be the same color, same lettering, same everything.
Can you talk a little bit about your hours of operation?
Hours of operation would be essentially 9 a.m. to probably 6 p.m. Usually our evening, I have another building in Fairport. If we were going to see an evening client, it would probably be over there. Saturday, Sunday hours, probably not. Again, we would probably use our Fairport location for something like that. So it would be essentially 9 to 6. Nobody ever comes in before 9, and most of us don't have a lot of evening appointments.
Right. And the only signage you'd be looking for is on that directory sign?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, all right. And there is ample parking for?
There is a public parking on the other side of that Trends building, and there's public parking behind. And then the landlord told me that the 8 or so places right behind was for the people who leased there.
That's
So,
correct, yeah.
Is that true?
That's true.
Okay. They were pretty full tonight, and there was nobody in the building but me, so wondered who's parking there.
So if you would, Linda, so you're taking over just a portion of the second floor, not the whole
Yes, he has
second
2
floor?
units, and I
Okay.
have the unit that has the 4 rooms as opposed to the one with the 3 rooms.
Got it. All right, board questions for Linda?
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Any remodeling that you've got planned?
No, he is in great shape.
Okay, all right, very good.
Moving right
And what
in.
was there before, if you will, do you know?
He told me that massage has been there before. I don't know if that's what was there right before me.
I think it's been vacant for a short period of time, but there was a massage therapist there
Got
that
it.
you had approved previously, yes.
I think, is that the area where Jackie Holzberg was
Yes.
at? Okay,
That's
got it.
correct.
Okay, very good. No further questions from the, well,
Just how soon are you planning to do this?
As soon as you tell me it's okay.
okay. Any other questions, board? See none. Mr. Costello, is there anything you would like to see added to the record that hasn't been received via email or discussed this evening?
No.
All right, great. And Linda, any questions for the board?
I don't think so.
Okay. So similar to the last application, Mr. Costello will prepare a letter kind of documenting, the discussion that we had tonight. It'll talk about the sign, talk about any inspection you might need for that area, just to make sure it's safe if that has not been done in a period of time.
Okay.
And he'll memorialize the fact that it's part of the second floor. You've got the 4 rooms that you'll be using. Hours of operation and things like that, so that you have that information as well. And Mr. Costello is very efficient, so I would say by early next week, you should probably have that letter.
Great.
All right?
Sounds great.
Thank you very much for your time. Welcome.
Thank you.
Look forward to another successful business in the Four Corners.
Thank you so much.
right.
I appreciate it.
All right, be well, be safe. Thank you. Okay, we will next move on to our action items. Our first action item is a request for a sidewalk waiver at 3090 Atlantic Avenue. And I'll let Mr. Valentine give us a short update. I think you know the drill, as you were here a couple of weeks ago, so welcome again. And with that, Mr. Valentine, if you would, any new updated information since our last meeting, please.
Thank you. So Mrs. Kasango Cahill is here tonight along with her family. So again, pursuing a sidewalk waiver for this property, and I do have the site plan to share as well. The board had some lengthy discussions last time. Obviously, the proximity to the town hall, the area. This had been the McKenna homestead for a number of years. Recently came in for subdivision, went through the subdivision approval process through the planning board. The seller was looking to split that into 5 lots, so the 1 homestead and then 4 new home lots. Mrs. Cahill and her family are looking to buy the homestead lot as well as lot number 2, and I'll bring up the site plan for that. So as part of that, they were seeking a sidewalk waiver. I know they're still working through the seller's agent and attorney. So here's the homestead lot. Here's lot 2. So they're looking to incorporate that in. There are sidewalks shown along the frontages as well as lots 3, 4, and 5. So they're looking to acquire the homestead parcel as well as lot 2, merge those together. So we kind of went through a rundown of that last time. We've heard about a letter of credit. We've heard about some other things. We've not seen anything official formalized. I did get an email from her attorney today, copying in the other attorney, asking some additional questions. I did send some responses back. But as of, we talked Thursday, Friday of last week, it's ongoing. So I told her to continue to, seek the waiver, and then at least she knows whether the board is considering of a waiver, not a waiver. They've been waiting for quite a while to close on the house and at least give them some decision-making ability going forward of what their finances may be and where this may shake out. So I'll let you add more to the conversation.
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
go ahead.
I don't have a ton more to add, but I can add that, yes, all of that is true. It went sort of dormant on us for a minute. As you know, we were supposed to actually close the 10th, the last time we were here. We didn't close. We got an extension on all of our stuff, as all of you know how complicated it is to buy a home and whatever. So we're sort of in this holding pattern. But it did come alive again about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, where, the attorneys have now started to talk to each other. I've learned that in order to sell the homestead lot, in order to sell any of it, the way the mortgage is, apparently, this is all things that I've heard anecdotally, of course. I've not seen this written in blood or anything, but I've learned, and I believe to be accurate, that Apparently, in order to close on any part of this land, he has to close on the entire thing simultaneously because of something about the way his mortgage is written. So, in fact, it never would have been possible to sell us just the homestead lot or just the lot and the adjacent lot, which they had offered. I'm not sure if they realized that at the time, but it is something that's become clear now. So they did, so we thought that the whole thing might just kind of crumple into nothing because we're not interested in buying the entire 5 acres. But now it has, like I said, it has come alive again because apparently there is another buyer who is working with the seller to buy the other 3 adjacent lots. As I mentioned, they have to close everything simultaneously. So in order to close, what we did get written, but we haven't signed yet, was an addendum written up by the seller's agent, which stipulated that there would be a letter of credit posted for $113,000, which was supposed to cover, the infrastructure mentioned in the conditions of the subdivision, which affects us really is only the grading and the sidewalks. But that would be covered within this letter of credit, and that it would be posted upon our close, and it would be a condition of the close. So there were a few things that I wanted the addendum to mention, and I didn't want the seller's agent to write it. I wanted our lawyer to write it, and I was kind of like, I'm not signing this Word document. Hold on. But so what they're doing now is they're revising that. And so the next step for us apparently is that we would sign this addendum that would stipulate that this letter of credit would be posted to cover this infrastructure so that the developer could come and develop the 3 lots and that we could simultaneously buy the 2 adjacent lots, which we don't intend to develop. We just tend to use for quiet enjoyment. So that's basically all of the new information. Like I said, I guess I would repeat our initial plea, which is that, we as a family, and me especially, and I'm always preaching to these guys, but they're used to hearing it, we believe in connectivity, and we completely understand the importance of sidewalks, and especially in spaces like this where are at an important prominent corner and that are connecting, connectivity that's already there. And I understand that it's part of your long-term comprehensive plan. And as a desired future resident of Penfield, I want that plan to be complete. In fact, my office is working on a number of different projects that have been part of that plan. So a waiver for the sidewalks is not something we want. We just want a waiver for the responsibility of the sidewalks to be on the buyer of this property. So since, and I think that it's pretty clear cut with the homestead lot that, is unfortunately part of the subdivision, but really is just a parcel with a 200-year-old home on it that is an awesome 200-year-old like old farmhouse that's amazing, that we'd love to live in, but typically wouldn't come with the condition of having to install this type of infrastructure. And I guess I would just argue that I would try to put on a platform that the subdivision was approved with the idea of, with homes put on this lot as well, as well as additional curb cuts and other things that we also would not intend on doing. We don't intend on making any money or developing this lot in any way. We just want to live there, make improvements on it, and hopefully enjoy the sidewalks that the developer of the other 3 properties installs.
So if the letter of credit is posted, that includes the sidewalks for the entire frontage of all the properties?
I believe so, because of the
So that would
quantity.
assume that the developers of the other 3 lots would then be responsible for installing sidewalks on your 2 properties?
I believe so. I mean, all of this, I don't have all of it ironed out, obviously.
Yeah,
which is
that's
why
something
we
you really
haven't-
want to work out with your attorney to make sure that that is the case.
Right, and that's what, and according to the seller's agent, that's the case. That's what they've been insisting the entire time. In fact, they thought it was kind of silly for us to come and pursue the waiver, but we wanted to do our own investigation, and speaking with the town, it seemed like the most prudent thing to do. So we thought, even if we don't get it, at least we've pursued this avenue, and if we do get it, we have some additional protection. If they had put a date on installation of the sidewalks, then we wouldn't even need the waiver, right? I mean, it would be something that we had that we wouldn't need. However, you don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens. So all of this is still.
Well, the purpose of the letter of credit and why we ask for it is once it's been submitted to us, we then have the ability to go in and invade that letter of credit to have
Right.
the work done if it's not being done in a time frame that we think is appropriate.
Right.
So that would be the case. If they're going to issue a letter of credit to us, they're going to have to work with us to determine when the best and most appropriate time to install those sidewalks are.
So the letter
Exactly,
of
yeah.
credit come to us, not to her?
Us.
Yeah, it would come to the
It's
town
always
and it
to
would
the
be
town.
deposited to the town.
The
So-
only issue
so-
is that it's
yeah.
been imminently arriving for the last 3 months. You've contacted me every swap. We heard it's been submitted. You have it. We've yet to see it. So I think that's just kind of leaving you in limbo that
Yeah.
it's been told to you that it's posted. It's told that we have it. And as of today, we don't have anything. So
Right, and then in the addendum, it said it would be posted at our close. But, you know, all of those things like need to be, we still haven't signed it, so I would feel better about it if we, you know what I mean, if we got an addendum that had, because basically the addendum wasn't specific about what we were going to be protected in it and saying the things that we were saying. So they've told us, like, verbally, yes, like, you guys aren't responsible for the sidewalks. They told us with our initial walkthrough. They told us when we, like, started to investigate a little bit of the subdivision. I've been told a number of times, but I've not seen it in writing for both of us, for all of the parties to sign, which is what obviously would make us more comfortable to move forward. So we're still waiting for that as well.
So I think the board was pretty clear at the last meeting that they really do want sidewalks in. And it doesn't really matter who puts them in, but
Right.
somebody has
We
to
want
put
the
them in.
sidewalks, too.
So if they're posting a letter of credit for that purpose, that will solve the problem. At least we hope that will. But if they don't post a letter of credit, it still leaves you in a situation where
Right.
you or somebody like you has to put that sidewalk in.
Exactly. I think if they don't post the letter of credit, that then they have an unsellable house.
Yeah, I don't think asking for the waivers at a point now that it's really rational to do that, because I think that the board's already said they really do want the sidewalks in place. And I'm hoping that does happen for you so that you have the right to build that, attack that.
Well,
lot
and
time.
I think the new piece of information that I've heard, or I think the board has heard, is that everything has to close together.
Right.
We didn't hear that 2 weeks ago when we were discussing this, and so that's apparently baked into the whole process, so that all 5 lots, if you will, the current, the homestead, if you will, and the 4 lots, everything has to sell together.
Correct.
And so at this point, the seller has got you lined up to buy the house and 1 lot, and it sounds like, at least according to what I understood from you, so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that he is exploring or has got someone interested in the other 3
Yep,
lots.
that's correct.
So, do you have any sense, I know communications hasn't been the best for you and back to the seller and through the agent and all that other.
Yeah, all the
But do you have any
triangulation.
sense of, from a timeline as to what you might be looking at?
Short answer is no. I'd like to say yes, but I know that what I do know is that we have a 30-day extension on our interest rate, which was locked in until December 2nd. So according to our brokers, we need to close 30 days after December 2nd. According to the attorney, he wrote, I only heard from a broker that he said this is going to take at least another 30 days to close with the other attorney. But that was before he had all of the information.
Got it.
According to my real estate agent, as soon as we have the addendum signed and we can order the appraisal, they can sort of lickety-split get everything together, and we should be able to close within a couple weeks because our loan is approved, or blah, blah, blah. We've done all of the other things that we needed to do. So we're all set. What's out of our control is the other seller. But as you mentioned, turns out we can't buy it unless they buy it as well.
Right.
We can't close. So that's good and bad. It's bad in that if that deal falls apart, then no matter what, we can't buy this home, and we love the home. But it's in a way good, because no matter what, if they have to close simultaneously, and if this letter of credit has to be posted to close, then it does offer us that protection that would happen simultaneously, not them just saying, in the future, when we sell to a different developer, our promise is that we do that, you know what I mean? So it is something that, it could be contingent upon, like and it could be something that we have to come back for. If we had an understanding that if we did have a letter of credit posted, maybe it's even something that we would like to do after our close, just to further protect ourselves, just understanding how these things sometimes work.
Sure.
So letters of credit don't get posted like that. I mean, it takes time to go through that process with the bank
Right.
to get that prepared. And maybe it's a situation where your attorney has to ensure that that process is being put in place a week or two before your closing.
Right.
So that he knows that there's somebody's working at the other end to get that letter of credit in place for you.
Exactly, and that everything happens.
Because if they're not doing that at least a week before, there's probably a good opportunity you're not going to get a letter of credit for that closing.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, and unfortunately, a lot of the parts are not in our hands.
Right.
But we wanted to come back. We want to make sure that we want to go through the proper channels here in the town. And I don't know, if we live here, it's good to know you guys anyway, it's nice to meet you. And we figured we'd show up for obviously we'd show up for our second hearing, but we wanted to stay on the agenda to, give the little bit of information that we do have. But we understand if it's something that has to be on hold until that is posted or contingent upon that posting or something with, because I know it holds in the balance of that, and our purchase would as well. We wouldn't feel comfortable purchasing it unless that was actually posted. So, I think that that's something we have in common. Right?
Yeah, you just need to make sure the homework's being done for you before you actually go to that closing.
Exactly. Yep. That's why I wanted to make sure also that the addendum was written in more of a clear way. I found it pretty vague. I was like, this is.
No, it sounds a lot better now than it did
I
when
think
you
if
first expressed it.
the
Right,
letter
a
of
little
credit
bit
moves
more
forward.
information.
Yeah.
If the letter of credit moves forward, I think you should be covered. They can do the sidewalks. If that
Right.
part falls apart, it may be back before the board, because as she shared, now that may become an unsellable house. If you're just anybody off the street and you go to buy the house and you put an offer in, you don't know that it comes with a $20,000 bill to install sidewalks. So, at that point, it may be back before the board. If this deal falls apart, if
Right, or
if
that
you
the
guys
owner
walk
has to
away,
put in the
then
sidewalks and then resell the
a
house.
new person comes in, this may be back, just depending on how this all plays out.
Yeah, all those things. We just love the house so much.
If I may, who put the addendum together? That was done by
The seller's agent.
the seller's agent? Okay.
And it was a fine addendum. It was just a little vague for
Well, it's like.
my
it's like
taste when we've been
any
waiting for 2
addendum.
months
You
for it.
wanna
I was
make
like,
sure that I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I mean,
Exactly.
so that no one's advantaged or disadvantaged.
exactly.
So are you requesting us to continue to table this matter until you get to a closing or close to a closing, or?
Well, yeah, what
are
do you guys think? I guess I'm
Well,
asking
that's
for
where I was
little
going
advice.
earlier.
Does that
If it
make
works out
sense?
for you, that's great. I hope it does.
And let us know.
But the other side of that is
Yeah.
the board is still saying that it's probably not in favor of a waiver.
Right.
So I don't know if it's, if it's in your effort to want to keep coming back. It's really going to be between you, your attorney, and the buyers or the other buyers and the sellers of the property as to how it works out for you. Because you're certainly not going to buy it if it doesn't work out with a letter of credit.
Right. I mean, then the deal. I mean, we have started to look at other homes because we know that we've grown out of our current home. We need a bigger house, but we just love this home. When you're just no, it's so things are kind of not stacking up. So we just haven't found anything that's inspired us yet. So
The other thing that can help you is generally when we receive letters of credit from a bank or some lending institution, they contact us just to make sure what our formats are and what the amount is and all that to verify that. I mean, they'll probably call us before you go to your closing. So I suspect if you stay in close proximity to Mark, he'll be able to let you know that we're having interaction with the lending
Yeah, and that would
institution,
be-
or we're not.
Well, and I did receive an email today from your attorney emailed me along copying their attorney, so at least there's some conversation.
That's what I mean.
I shared the letter of credit and that, so
alive.
maybe that's why it's coming back alive. I didn't see a reply from the other attorney, so I can't say that
Yeah.
any agreements happened, but at least I did see paperwork come through today. And
Yeah, I found it a little we feel inspired that it has come alive, but that's kind of it. It's kind of come alive, and I feel like it could suddenly work out, or it could stay in limbo forever. I guess my final question would be maybe not my final question, but a question that I have would be, if we did table this, let's say we asked to be tabled, and in that circumstance, if we were granted that request, and then we did, go through the channels and things did start to work out, and then there was a letter of credit posted that we had proof of, and we came back with that letter of credit with this same request, would that be something feasible to potentially grant our request for the waiver? Because I guess there's no point in it.
You wouldn't need a waiver then.
You wouldn't need a waiver
They're
at
going to
that
put the
point.
sidewalks in for you. That's the whole
Okay,
purpose
so
of the
then
letter
we
of
wouldn't even
credit.
need the waiver. We would just
Because
need-
if they give us that letter of credit and they decide not to put the sidewalks in, we'll put the sidewalks in and take it out of the letter of credit.
Okay, so that's
That's the whole
helping me
purpose
answer
of the
my
letter of
question.
credit.
Okay,
So if you have a closing date and you're aware of when that's going to be, I would suggest you contact Mark a few days before that
Okay.
to see if they've posted that letter of credit with the town prior
Okay.
to the closing.
okay.
Or
all right.
certainly if we get the letter of credit,
Obviously, we reach
communications
out as soon
goes
as
two
we-
ways.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
'Cause,
That'll
yeah.
give you at least a little bit of comfort before you go into that closing.
No,
that we have it.
definitely. That's like the exact comfort we need. Because we don't need, whatever. We just want to make sure that 6 months down the line or 2 years down the line, we don't end up in a situation that,
And we don't want that either.
you know what I mean, in a sticky situation that we don't want to be in.
don't
We want
want
to make
that
sure
either.
that we're doing what's right for our family and we're not putting ourselves in a precarious
Right.
spot.
Okay.
Yeah, but we love the sidewalk.
So we will keep this as a held item on the agenda so that, because it sounds like there's a few steps that have to take place. So I think keeping it at least active on the agenda
Okay.
keeps it out there. Hopefully with the communications that took place between your attorney and the seller's attorney today, hopefully that generates some positive communications that can, start to move forward. And I would think as the seller wants, I would expect anyways, that the seller would want to put a package together to sell everything. I think that's what their intent is.
I think so,
And
too.
if he's got it tied up that all 5 properties have to kind of go together, close together, it seems to me that it's in his best interest or their best interest to make that happen. Because what will happen is that this project has been an approved project. It has been filed with the county. Those lots will go from vacant land to assessed approved lots. And that will change the outlook for the current seller because those taxes will go up significantly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and that happens March 1st is that magic date that happens. And so there is some incentive, I would think, on
Yeah.
his part to wrap this up, especially if he's got 2 or 3 people that kind of can come together and make this happen. You for potentially 2 lots and somebody else for the other 3.
No, that's
So-
good to know that there's at least a little bit of
So
a motivating factor.
We'll keep it as a held item.
Okay.
And if we hear anything, we certainly can stay in contact with you and vice versa. If as we take a look and hopefully this thing comes together sooner than later.
Yeah,
and you
then we'll
don't
be
have to
neighbors.
get into another situation. You and your family don't have to get in another situation to try to extend your financing for yet another 30 days and so on and so
All of that kind of
So-
stuff. So just to be clear, so if we get the letter of credit posted, we don't need the waiver. We just
That's right. I mean, if the
alive
letter of
and-
credit comes in and it's to
Okay.
install all the sidewalks, then you're not going to need a
We're
waiver.
good to go.
Because because once we have the letter of credit, we'll expect that work to be done. And if it isn't done in a timely fashion,
you can
as
deduct.
our town engineer and development service director indicates, we invade that letter of credit and do the work.
Okay.
So-
No, that's good. That's new information for us too, because we were a little bit gray on exactly what we needed to feel comfortable, so that's helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All
And
right.
just so I'm clear, the letter of credit should identify the sidewalks and potentially the property that they will
The amount that
own.
was established for the letter of credit had those sidewalks.
Okay.
as
Yeah,
part of
it
that
has
process.
some grading, it has some pipe work, the sidewalks, so it was intended for the overall development. So
Got
that's
it.
the number
I
that
just
was-
wanted to make sure that all of a sudden we didn't see a letter of credit that only had the 3 properties that,
Well, that was what
They
it
were
was. So
selling,
they
yeah.
told us the quantity of the letter of credit, but then the amendment that came in didn't have the quantity
Right,
on it.
okay.
And I was like, I'm not, what if they post a letter of credit for $10?
Right,
And then
right.
I've signed this amendment, so.
Yeah, and that's why I shared with both attorneys today is here's the established
Right.
letter of credit, here's the agreed upon amount between the engineer and the town. So, and it has the quantities in there, it
Okay.
has the costs in there.
All right.
So it should be stipulated exactly what's included in that amount.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't know that happened because I tried really hard to get hold of my attorney. I don't, maybe,
We'll stay in touch.
That's what-
stay
in my next life, I maybe
Mark,
should be an
because he will
attorney.
be getting the
Seems-
letter of credit probably before or at the time of the closing.
it said at the time, in the amendment, it said at the time of the closing.
But it will be prepared long before that. So,
Because it has to be submitted to the town.
Right,
But yes, let's stay in
Okay.
contact.
Okay.
And make sure that if we hear anything or you hear anything, that we stay connected on.
okay, sounds good.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Coming in.
You and your family have
Happy
a
holidays,
wonderful holiday
everyone.
season.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, thank you.
And be well and be safe.
Thanks, you guys too.
All right.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much for your time.
Hopefully it works.
Yeah. Send
luck.
Good vibrations. Yeah, we think it would be really nice to be in that house for the new year. We all have the holidays off, so.
there you go.
maybe we can meet, or just
I'll hurt you.
hang out as usual.
Sure the kids are excited about painting.
Well, like, yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
their idea of painting is
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, folks. All right, we'll move on to our second action item. And actually, I'm going to just report out to the board. Mr. Valentine and I spoke today. Mark was doing some legwork to get some information back on our low bidder. That information has not come in. We spoke with Mr. Horowitz today. Mr. Horowitz requested that we send a letter out to the applicant. So I'm going to ask that this be held until the next work session, and hopefully we will have all of the information needed to make a final decision on this matter. So this item B will be shown as a tabled item. The next item is Rochester Disc Golf Club. This is a request now that has been before us for several months, and the request is that the town acquire 18 baskets, 2 practice baskets. It's around $8,600. And just to remind the board, they're proposing that if the town does that, they will work on, putting together the concrete bases for the installation of that, the tee boxes. They'll take care of all of that. It's about, total project's about $20,000, of which they're asking $8,600. I think one of the things that I'd indicated to the board is for us to have some sort of a policy or some sort of a formula as to make sure that as we're moving forward with any projects on Shadow Pines, that there is a reasonable partnership, if you will, for dollars and cents, because we don't have an endless amount of money. Some things are going to cost more than others, and so just ask the board any thoughts, ideas on how you would like to move forward with this.
Well, one of the questions I have is do we have an idea of what the investment will be for the pads? We've got an idea of what the town portion of this partnership, if you want to call it that, would be. And maybe, Mr. Supervisor, maybe you said that at the past meeting, and I just didn't write it down in my notes.
So the delta from what they would do to what they're asking us to do, their cost would be approximately $11,000. Our cost would be approximately $8,600.
Okay.
And Mr. Supervisor, in that, any repairs done needed for the pads and And the baskets, I don't want to assume anything, but who is responsible for that upkeep after these purchases were made?
I think like we've done in other partnerships, so Penfield Little League, soccer, lacrosse, we would put together an agreement, and that agreement would be for, typically, we have done it for a 5-year period, but it could be at any term that the board would like. And within that agreement, we would identify those types of things. We understand when we met with the individuals for the disc golf that typically, and confirm that with our rec department, but typically these baskets have a life of 20-plus years.
Yep.
So it's not like you're going to be, fixing them every year, multiple times a year, and what have you. I would say that part of the agreement, you would want to have that flushed out in the understanding of who is going to do what by way of any mowing that might be done, any repairs to tee boxes, any of that. You'd want to have that spelled out very clearly so that there is no misunderstanding of who is taking care of what.
Well, we could conceptually agree to this, but we have to do all these things that you're mentioning. We can't just say, sure, we'll give you this amount of money, let's go for it. We got to have all that written up about who's responsible for what, and and contingencies about what happens, and who's going to do that? Is that going to be disc golf and a member of the rec staff? Is it going to be the town attorney? Who's going to be the lead
typically
on
what
that?
happens is the organization, Little League, as an example, Little League and the town would put it together, and then the respective attorneys would review that. And what we would look for from this board are any guidelines that you have.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly supportive of the partnership. I think with, the other organization coming forward and willing to, have some skin in the game with some financial investment is a good thing. But certainly I would want to be able to take a look, or this town board should be able to take a look at what the finalized language is before any resolution is approved, just to make sure,
Exactly.
that everybody's on the same page and everybody's a clear understanding of what the responsibilities and expectations will be after, purchases are made and investments are made for the disc golf operation. So I'm okay as a town board member moving forward, but I think that this board, including the supervisor, should take a final look at the language on what those relationships and who's doing what, who's responsible
Right.
for what, and what commitments are made in writing, so there's no misunderstanding down the road who's doing what.
Right, because you asked if there's anything we have to offer, and perhaps we're not, maybe it'd be better to see what is put together and then have a look at it and say, hey, we should add this or that we're not the experts on this. Maybe rec and the disc golf and the attorneys put something together for us. We can move forward, but, I don't know. Personally, I don't feel like I have the knowledge base to say I want this in here, I want that in there. But if I see what's written up and I see something that's like, hey, shouldn't we have thought about this, then maybe that's a better role for us.
Okay.
That's my thought.
All right.
I agree, Mr. Supervisor, especially we were saying with the agreement we have between Little League, Penfield Little League, and the town has worked well, and I believe that maybe there's a guideline we can use, we could use going forward for the other organizations as well as the disc golf, and who else will be participating in usage at Shadow Pines or any of our other park facilities. So I agree, I'd like to see some kind of a document in works or
Okay.
similar.
All right.
Is this work that would, in a perfect world, take place over the winter months, or is this kind of a spring operation to get started? I mean, we have a little time to put some things together.
So the disc golf folks will tell you that they play year-round. So my guess is that you will see folks out there throwing discs, fall, winter, overall. They may, I know some of them have brought in, when there was the outing about a month or 6 weeks ago, they brought in some portable baskets
Yes.
and then brought them out when they were completed. So I'm guessing you would see some activity.
Like that, okay.
So we'll get some representatives of Penfield Recreation and the disc golf folks, and we'll draft something up for the board to take a look at.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right? And we will show this as a held item until that comes in for the board to review. Okay, questions? All right, the next item is the Shadow Pines Concept Master Plan update. I think we had the opportunity to have our friends from BME come in and provide us some updated information. Thank you, Mark, for pulling that together. And we're at a point that, we can tweak, we can modify, we can do a whole bunch of things, but at some point, we got to fish or cut bait. So what I'm suggesting is that we look to, move forward with something on this. I would say, and I have said to a number of people, that no matter what we agree to as a final plan, not everyone is going to be happy. If you recall from the discussion when we last had it, that we were going to be showing the tennis courts and the basketball courts as just available land to expand in the future. And the last layout, I believe, is the one here. If you'd scroll up just a hair mark, where the pickleball courts are. There are the 3 inclusive pickleball courts, and then the other 12 courts overall. And as I've said, they've been moved, tweaked, adjusted. So I guess we're at a point. What's your pleasure for next steps?
I talked about this a couple weeks ago when we first started to take a look at the layout, and I raised some concerns about the need for additional basketball courts and the need for additional tennis courts. My concern still stands valid today. Certainly, as of right now, I'm not convinced that hard basketball courts are necessary at this time. As you pointed out, Mr. Supervisor, and I agree with your assessment that maybe down the road there is a need, but I'm not convinced that the basketball courts are needed today. And I also feel the same way with the tennis courts there. I think that if we decide to pursue the pickleball courts at this location, that will again free up the tennis courts that are throughout the town at the various parks, for more tennis operations. And so I'm not sure that more tennis courts are needed at the site today. And certainly the land, as you said, Mr. Supervisor, we don't know what the future predicts, but the land could be there for potential tennis courts or basketball court development down the road at some point in time. So right now, I would be okay with seeing the basketball courts and the tennis courts being removed from what we're looking at today.
Okay. All right.
And Councilman, it may not show up clearly on this image here, but it's grayscaled on my screen. So I think they left them as just showing its potential future, and there's area allocated for them.
Okay.
So it does say future hard court. There is kind of a gray dashed box around the outside, and they're a lighter shade than what the pickleball courts are, and I don't think it's representing well on the TV screen. So they label it as future hard court area. It still has a ghosted image of a basketball court, tennis court. Those could be pickleball courts. Those could be something else. We said, why don't you just show that the area could be available for it, and maybe some better definition or showing that that's future and grayscale it even more, or dash it in, but it's showing that the pickleball is defined. This just kind of shows as an overall master plan that could accommodate something in the future, whether tennis, basketball, pickleball, something else. So just wanted to clarify that they, I don't think it's representing well on the TV screen there, but it is kind of ghosted on my screen a little bit more and showing it's kind of a dashed image with that future hard court, and they kind of tried to grayscale it back, but we can take the representation of those courts off and just say future hard court area, maybe take the imagery of what it might be off. And
I think some of the discussion was that those may not be needed at all, and if pickleball is, as you know, turns out to be needing even more courts, there's an opportunity for some additional courts to be used for that area. So I think that's the reference to just future hard courts. So it could be a number of things. It could be 3 more pickleball courts. It could be 1 basketball court. It could be 10 more pickleball courts or whatever. I think we're at a point though that I think the next step is to start to take this to a final design, so that we've got the grades. We've got something that we can get out there for some cost estimates to do the work. I think that BME's been working with Monroe County. They've made some changes to what Monroe County requested for in and out, and now it's a matter of moving forward to apply for those permits and then do the final design so that the project can start to move forward. And I think, like the conversation with the previous matter with disc golf, running parallel with that would be to put together an agreement that would be between the town and others, depending upon how we want to get that all set up, so that everybody's on the same page and understanding as to who's going to do what, who has what responsibility, and what have you. But I think the next step is for us to look to move forward with a little bit further design and some cost estimates for this. Would be my thoughts and recommendation.
Right. So I agree with what Councilman Moore said. His thoughts about the hard surface area not having to be the tennis and the basketball. I mean, if we made if I offer up that we accept the concept plan with that modification to further pursue, we can accept the concept plan, but then further pursue getting the estimates for the cost of the different areas and putting together a group to meet with the rec staff and the pickleball people to ensure that that area, which is the major area that we're looking at right now, is dealt with equitably. Is that a fair motion for this? Is that what you're looking for? Something along those lines?
I'm just saying we should take the next step and instead of let this thing just sit and idle.
I agree.
I think it's if we're committed to pickleball, which I think this board is, and we've indicated that, then I think the next step is to move forward. And if you would like to tee that up as a
That'll be my
motion,
yes.
Then I would entertain a second to that motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. So then I'd ask for any additional discussion or comments from the board. So what we would look to do is we'd look to go back to BME and ask them to start to take the next step to put together some cost estimates and things like that, running parallel with that to start to work on some type of a framework for an agreement. And then, obviously, there's going to have to be discussion about dollars and cents, and who participates with what amount. Again, similar to what we do with Little League today and some of the others, and who's going to commit to what, and is there an annual fee to improve? Laying out who's cutting the grass around it, who's maintaining, all those types of things, so that there's no misunderstanding on anybody's part about who has what responsibility. All right. Been a motion by Councilperson Cole, seconded by Councilperson Ockenden to move forward. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call vote, please, Sue.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our information items. There is a request for a grade and fill permit at 18 Old Westfall Road, Old Westfall Drive, I apologize. Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So we had a request, an application for a grade and fill permit. It's been actually several months now. After coming to the board, sharing your thoughts and concerns, we went back to the applicant, asked for some additional materials. We have not heard back from the resident. They've not pursued additional filling. We've reached out to them on 2 or 3 additional times, but have not heard back from them. So at this point in time, our recommendation is to close the matter before the board, take it off the agenda, and if and when they would like to pursue a grade and fill, we can add it to the agenda at some time in the future. But at this time, they've made no indication to us, not pursued any additional materials, have not deposited any more material on the site. We'll continue to drive by just to make sure that doesn't happen, just to make sure they're not circumventing, the process. We'll follow up on that, but to date, there hasn't been anything additional. So it's just a matter of closing it out. We've tried reaching out, have not heard back for whatever reason, but my recommendation is to take it off the agenda. And
All right, I'd entertain a motion
I'd move that, Mr. Supervisor, that we remove it from the request for the fill permit for 18.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Councilperson Draw, second by Councilperson Moore. This matter will be shown as a dropped item and will only be added again if we hear back from the applicant. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call vote, please.
Draw.
Aye.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Ockenden.
Aye.
5 ayes.
We'll move on to our item B. This is a request for conditional use permit to allow a restaurant at 1778 Penfield Road. Mr. Costello for
Yes, I'd like to bring to
information.
the board's attention that I have received an application for a sit-down restaurant with outdoor dining for the former 1778 Bistro on the corner of Liberty Street and Penfield Road. I am preparing a resolution setting a public hearing for January 19th. The applicant is a current restaurant owner in East Rochester, would like to relocate to Penfield, and he has complied with all the requirements for the application process.
Okay.
Great.
That's an FYI, nothing further
more.
at this point. You'll be looking to prepare a resolution
Next week.
for next week. All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Costello. We'll move on to rezoning requests. Actually, I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to take items C and D because they are together, if you will.
Yes.
Item C, a request for rezoning at 1177 and 1179 Plank Road. And adjacent and around the corner from that is rezoning request for 1345 Plank and 933 State Road. And
Right.
so, Mr. Costello, if you
So
would.
with C first, C is 1177, 1179 Bay Road. And this goes back to recommendations that have been made by the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee. As a matter of fact, we met the other night. We finalized the letter that you're going to be getting that identifies all of the recommendations that have been brought to us from day one to present. There won't be any more at this point in time. That letter will probably be issued to you next week, I would think. The board is going to meet on the 16th. The committee is going to meet on the 16th. We're just going to run it by them one last time to make sure that they're comfortable with all the wording that's been installed by them since our last meeting. But in the cases that I'm talking to you tonight, these properties have all been recommended for rezoning. We'll go to 1177 and 1179. 1179, there's a two-family dwelling on it right now. It abuts a neighborhood business zoning district. There's a hair salon just to the south of it. The applicant also owns the vacant parcel just to the north of the house. He would like to put another two-family dwelling on it. He's not looking for an apartment complex. He's looking to manage kind of what he's got on the existing parcel. There is a bit of a buffer between him and the property to the north. The property to the north is also currently zoned R120. There's no intent to change that. The recommendation would be that if the town board were to allow for the rezoning to occur, that you can see there is a buffer there between the neighbors and him, that buffer remain in place and even be embellished if it has to be to create more of a buffer. But the intent would be to build no more than a two-family dwelling on that site. So these applications have been made. They're not coming before you yet because I wanted that letter to be completed before that happened. I'm thinking that we probably won't even set a public hearing until next year, early next year, maybe the second legislative session of the year, and then have the meeting sometime in February, like late February, somewhere in that area. But I want to bring it to your attention because they are currently before us for application. We're doing some background work in terms of getting to the county planning department, that type of thing for you, so you have more input. But that's what's happening at this site. The next two sites that the supervisor suggested do go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, there's even a third component to it that I want to discuss with you. This is the property that Mr. Neufeld met with you about several months ago, where he is proposing, he believes that he has the ability to put 24 single-family units on this property. He may or may not, we don't know that yet. He is going to have to prepare a plan identifying how many he can really get on the site in a conventional layout. His intent really, though, is not to build 24 homes. His intent is to build 12 duplex units, try and maintain some of the property as best he can in a wooded state. He did have a meeting with the neighbors on October 28th of this year. I think it was, he said it was a good meeting. I met with one of the neighbors who's also interested at 933. She thought it was a fairly good meeting. There were some concerns, particularly related to the access point, which is being proposed off of Shoecraft between two homes. He may have other options as to how we can get in, but certainly we talked about the idea of having a public hearing to get public input to determine where we're going with that. Mark, can you put on the actual property lines for this? So adjacent to him is 933, which is owned by Mrs. Novick. She had requested her property be rezoned back in 2010 when the comp plan committee recommended that all these houses around the perimeter be rezoned back to R120. They were built as R120 homes and then went into the RR1 district in 1981 after the ordinance went into effect, basically making them all pre-existing non-conforming. 2010 comp plan committee update meetings suggested that they go back to R120, and the town board did follow that recommendation and got them rezoned back to R120. You can see that Mrs. Novick's got about just a little over an acre, 1.2 or 3 acres. She would like to have her property rezoned so that she could split that lot, take her home off, and then possibly either develop that site or actually have Mr. Neufeld or another developer buy that property and develop it. That leaves 4 little parcels. The largest parcel of those 4 is 0.62 acres. They are the only properties left that are zoned RR1, and none of them meet the criteria for RR1 zoning. So I'm thinking that I may want to talk to them, or somebody may want to talk to them about the idea of possibly getting those rezoned as well. That way everything in that quadrant would then be R120, and they would not be pre-existing non-conforming lots now. So this is all kind of coming together. Certainly, I'm sure somebody in the staff will bring this to you early next year at some point in time again, and you'll have to make some decisions as to how you want to handle it. And certainly, as I said, Mr. Neufeld did prepare a plan. It looks like a responsible plan. He's promised to solve some of the drainage problems in the backyards of some of those people, and he's got a good track record of doing that with his development. So it's really going to be a matter, I think, of access to the property as to the neighbors' concerns and specific layout. You'll notice that the one property at the very bottom there that's existing, that house is about 12 feet from the rear property line. Mark and I have suggested to Mr. Neufeld that maybe he shift the road down a little bit to get it away from that house and give them more buffer. He's indicated that he'd be happy to do that, so that's going to be a situation that you can discuss with him when the time comes. But I'm certain the neighbors will express those concerns as well.
So, Mr. Costello, just so the record's clear, you indicated 12 duplexes. So is that 24 units,
Yes.
or is that 12 units?
That is 24 units.
So it's 12
but they'll be on,
duplexes, 24 units.
And they'll be on separate lots, but those lots will be surrounded by a common area.
Got it. Okay. I just want to make sure that everybody was on the same page. So it's 12
Right. Now, one of those
24
lots, one of those units, if you remember, he talked about the possibility of putting in a senior green home, similar to the one that's over there on Fellows Road. The St. John's owns. He would put that up in the corner of the property in that location Mark's identifying, and that would be part of the subdivision itself. Again, he has to provide us with a conventional plan to identify the number of units that are legally allowed in that zone.
Correct.
He hasn't done that yet.
Okay. All right. Very good. Questions, board, for Mr. Costello?
Nope.
No action? No action at this time? More,
no action,
More
just
just
FYI.
information only, so it doesn't require any type of a vote. That brings us to item E. This is John Antetomaso. This is for the discussion regarding the possible development of additional parking for K2 Brewery at 1211 Empire Boulevard and 41 Wilbur Tract Road. And I think the board had the opportunity to walk that site with all the concerns. So the K2, the Mr. Antetomaso, I think all of the board was pretty much there. So any new updated information, Mr. Costello?
And in the meeting you recommend, that you're referencing, the board suggested that the best thing to do possibly would be to have a neighborhood informational meeting. I initially was going to set that up in conjunction with the 19th of January. I think it's probably better to have some of the new board members come online and know exactly what's happening before we just do this. So there's probably going to have to be some kind of a tutorial to allow them to know what's going on as well. I did receive the letters, the letter of intent from the applicants. We do have the mapping that they're proposing. And I think the intent would be at some point in time to set a public informational meeting. I can do that at the board's direction. I don't know how soon you want to do that. The earliest we could do it would be the 19th of January. You might want to do it like maybe the first meeting of February so that everybody gets online and knows what's happening. The new board members are going to have to walk that site and understand what's being proposed for it.
And my sensitivity is so that we're not trying to cram everything in. We do already have 2 public hearings that'll be scheduled for the 19th. And so I want to make sure that we're going about this so that, everybody's getting up to run speed and that we're not trying to cram too much into one evening, particularly some things that may have, some interest by residents to come out to. And so I might suggest that, I would be happy to speak with our incoming supervisor with her comfort as to how we space those out. But I think it would be safe to say better in either the first or second meeting of February.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the board members need to know really what the inner workings of the entire process are as it relates to incentive zoning, and you're going to have to make some decisions if you decide to move forward, what the incentive would be. I think that needs some time to just sit and soak.
Yeah, I really wanted a public information meeting more to make sure the residents in the area were aware before we went further to talk about incentives and all that.
I agree 100%. I mean, if you find it not to be appropriate to move forward, there's no sense in determining an incentive, but I agree. And I
Don't want
think
to get
that's
too
why
far
you need,
ahead.
that's why you need that time to get everybody on board and know what's happening.
That's fair.
Okay. All right, everybody comfortable with that?
Very good.
All right, and I'll work with Marie, and we'll get that scheduled for what makes sense with the overall schedule. I think we're getting together here over the next week or 10 days to lay things out for organizational meeting. So we'll make sure we take that into account and don't lose sight of that. Okay. There being no further business to come before the board this evening.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to take a moment before you close out the meeting to acknowledge that this is the last meeting for several of the crew here tonight. So on behalf of the staff and the residents, we'd like to acknowledge first Councilman Moore for his 12 years of service on the board. Jim Costello, to my left, has been with the town since 1981, so over 41 years of service. And then yourself, been involved with the town since, I believe, 1976. So I'd like to thank you all for your leadership, dedication to the town, all your efforts through the years. So just wanted to include that and show our appreciation before you closed out the meeting. So,
Here, here.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Thank you, team. There's a great team that will be carrying on, and some new members coming in, and will not miss a beat. So look forward to great things continuing to happen in this community as they have in the past, and make Penfield even better than what it is today. So thank you for that. There being no further business to come before the board this evening, the December 8th, 2021 work session of the Penfield Town Board will stand adjourned at 8:18 p.m. Thank you to everyone that participated. Thank you to PCTV that keeps us on live for our residents that can't make it into the town hall. And as always, be well and be safe.